Hey everybody, it's time to get real. I'm Ron Cantor, the president of GODTV in Israel. And Get Real is the podcast where we get real with faith leaders about issues in their life and the crucial issues around the world. Now, if you're looking for a cookie cutter interview, this is not the place. But if you want to get real and talk about real issues, we're glad you're here. Today, we're going to get real with Pastor Troy Brewer. And Troy, you're rejoining me. We already did one broadcast that was just amazing. I believe that we not only helped each other, but many men and women out there. And we're talking about, the situation with Robbie Zacharias. There was a investigation, and that investigation brought up a lot of concerns. There was accusations of really as bad as rape. And so, without going into all the details of that, you work, a big part of your life is rescuing girls and boys from human trafficking. How does a man in America or in Great Britain or in the West suddenly find himself involved in that chain of human trafficking?
Well, in going throughout the world, one of the things that the Lord gave us to do was to feed people. And God set us up with this incredible network all over the world where we were able to bring in food, I'm talking about big levels of food. And then we started feeding people in trash dumps. And then in going into these trash dumps and feeding people, inevitably, I began to see this pattern where people would bring me young girls, or they would even bring me children, because they thought that I was a sexual tourist because I was a middle-aged Caucasian American. And people would go, "Oh, we know exactly." And I fit this profile. And people would think, "Oh, we know what he's here for." And the first time that happened in Central America. And we were in a trash dump, and we were in this place called this Maze City, and it was made out of tin, and it was a big mess. And I came across a little house, and I thought, well, at least somebody has a nice house, because it was nice. And this lady who looked very sweet to me brought out these two little Nicaraguan refugee children. And they were both girls, 10-ish, and she was talking to me in Spanish, and the pastor that I was with said, "Do you know what she's trying to do?" And I said, "No." I said, "She's trying to sell you these two little girls." And I was like, "What?" And then she told me, "You can make a movie." She said that in Spanish. And she said, "You can make a movie with these kids." And as soon as I saw that, I looked in the eyes of these two kids, and I knew, I saw what they were looking at, and I saw what they thought was going to happen. And I said, "Yeah, right now, let's do a deal." And so we did a deal, and I walked out with those two girls and took them to our orphanage. And I remember getting out in the car with them and talking to the guys in the car and saying, "I want you to translate exactly," and saying, "Listen, nobody's going to hurt you. Listen, that's not going to happen. We're going to take you to a house. You're going to be taken care of." Stone cold vampire, emotionalist, they just didn't believe it. They didn't get it. They couldn't wrap their head around it until I told them, "We're going to feed you." And then they started perking up.
Troy, it's like a movie. Yeah. You could not write a script. These girls thought they were being sold into sexual perversion, slavery.
Yep.
And then they find out, no, not only is that not happening, but we're going to change your whole life.
Yeah, they're going to get set up for the rest of their life. We're going to feed you and love you and give you Jesus. Yeah. Yeah, I've had the privilege of being that guy to over 4,000 boys and girls. 4,000.
Wow.
And that number's growing every single day. Now, I haven't personally rescued all those, and I haven't even met half of those half of those kids. My teams all over the world do that. But I've met a lot of them. You've met some of them. You've been with me to Nepal, and you've met them, and they're beautiful. And all they need is a dad. All they need is for a man not to abuse them. All they need is for the people of God to actually be Jesus to them.
Yeah, one of the greatest joys we had over in Nepal was watching these 13 girls at New Life or New Leaf, as they were crawling all over Pastor Bob, which is not his real name, and loving, like they had already learned how to identify with a father figure in a healthy way, and they love him.
Yeah, he's a daddy to them. And he's shown them the love of the Father, to them. And that's what they need. And that's what the Lord sets us up, to do that for.
But let's get back to the darker side of this. You've got a guy in Milwaukee, or in, Kansas City. and he's doing some bad things online. Next thing you know, maybe a year down the road after progression, he's on an airplane to Cambodia.
Yep.
How does that happen?
It happens through the progression of, it's just like any other kind of drug. You chase it. The first time somebody gets high on, say, cocaine, it's the greatest thing ever. And then after that, they chase that high for the rest of their life. Same thing with alcoholism. Same thing with sexual addiction, that you chase this fulfillment that you can never find. So you chase it into darker and darker and darker places. And all that stuff is available with click on demand now. And there's no accountability. You know, when you and I were kids, if you were going to go watch pornography, you had to go to a bad place.
It was work.
I'm telling you, man, you had to jump through some hoops. Now it's on kids' phones.
You know, when I was a kid, you had to walk into a 7-Eleven. They were in the paper bags. You couldn't even see what was on there. And then, you know, you're 13. You can't buy it. And then it was very difficult. And now, like you said, it's on your phone, on your computer, and you don't have to be 18. Anybody. Can you imagine, Troy, being a 14-year-old boy today? And I only say boy because I know there are girls trapped in pornography as well, but it's more or less a male thing, is it not?
No, it is. I mean, it's, you know, men are visually oriented sexually. And so, you know, God Almighty made men to be pursuers, and he made women to be receivers, both physically, emotional, and every single way. And so these guys, once a man finds out, dude, I can click here, and then I can go to another click, and then I can go to another click, and then I can go to it. Not only is it triggering the sexual part of a man, but it's triggering the part of a person, or I should say of a boy, that actually his entire paradigm for sexuality is to pursue. And so it's so addictive. Click, 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 click. And then what happens is you end up going into the dark web, you end up looking at children, you end up totally messing up your brain to where you don't even know what normal sex is at all. And then before long, you're on a plane, you're going to Cambodia, you're going to Central America, and you have lined something up to where you can have sex with a child somewhere. And you become that guy, become that guy.
Okay, you know, something I have read, and I've heard it several times. They say that some men feel empowered by pornography, that they believe that that woman, that beautiful woman on the other side without any clothes on, is there for him, that she likes him, that she's excited, that he specifically, that he feels he has a relation. Now, when I was a young man and I engaged in such behavior, I was never dumb enough to think that woman was into me. But does that happen?
No, it does. And what happens is they lose all sense of reality, which is a part of the trap. So it ends up messing up with every single relationship you have. You can't even perceive what a true relationship is anymore.
Take that to these young children. Yep. Are they convinced that these kids are happy that they're coming to be with them?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Now, there's another part of it where they're happy, they're not happy with it.
Right.
And that's part of that. But there's another part of it where they actually, no, this is a fulfilling, there's actually a movement here in the United States to try and make pedophilia legal. And they're like, that can actually be a wholesome part of a young child's life. No, it cannot. No, it cannot. It cannot be a wholesome part of a child's life. There should be no place anywhere within any civilized society that says it's okay to be sexually active with children. No place. And if the people of God do not step up, and if they do not own that responsibility, there's nobody else coming.
Right.
I can start naming people groups throughout the entire planet Earth, and it's accepted behavior within those. It may be extreme parts, but it's accepted behavior within that culture.
Never accepted, by the way, by the children.
No.
It's accepted by the adults.
No, that's exactly right.
The perverted ones.
No.
So this guy, he's on the plane. He goes there. We're not talking about anybody specific, the generic guy, and he gets to Cambodia. What happens?
Well, I can tell you this. One of the things that's happening is guys like me are watching those guys.
Yes.
And they think they're going to get away with it, and they're not. And we have teams of people in Southeast Asia that literally monitor porno sites so that when these guys are getting on it and whenever they're looking at these kids, our teams are monitoring them, and we know when they get on an airplane, and we know when we get there, and we're going to bust them. We're going to do everything we can do to stop that cycle. And we're happy to do
Yes.
that. And then at the same exact time that we do that, then we also get a chance to rescue the child. In about 2 months ago, there were 7 guys who came from the United States to a nation in Southeast Asia. We were tracking those guys. Whenever we busted them, we also busted the brothel, and we freed 41 children in one day. 41.
Hallelujah. Come on. So these men right now are in a South Asian jail.
Yes, right this second. And then they're going
So
to...
you're talking about getting out, they're getting out and they're going to go to 28 years. That's if they survive.
If they survive that. And then we're going to be waiting on them as soon as they get off the plane. We're going to know when they get out of jail, and we're going to know when they get to the airport, and then we're going to be waiting for them. And we're hooked up with the FBI here in the United States. And then they're going to face a 28-year term here in the United States. It's not a fantasy. It's not something that doesn't do any harm. It's not something that doesn't really mean anything. No, it means something.
Right.
And the repercussions of it are severe, and they need to be.
Well, it reminds me of the Frank Peretti's book, This Present Darkness.
Yeah, I remember that book.
We all read 100 years ago,
Yeah,
one of the
yeah,
first
yeah.
Christian fiction novels.
Yeah, yeah.
But in one of the scenes, there was a demonic force who was so sweet, friendly, comforting. But then when the victim, the one that the demon was trying to seduce, was able to see the demon for what it was,
Yes.
it was hideous.
Yes.
So what people think they're going, this is going to be great, this is going to be wonderful, a dream, it actually ends up being, you're going to end up in chains.
Yeah. Well, you got to treat it. I say this all the time. I said it in the last episode. You have to treat sexual sin and sexual pursuits like it's a rattlesnake and not like it's a powder puff.
Right.
It's a rattlesnake, and you have to treat it like that. You know what I do with I live on a ranch in Texas. I kill them. That's what I do. I treat a rattlesnake like a rattlesnake needs to be treated.
And you probably cook them and eat them.
I'm liable to. So I'm like, no, you know what? I'm not living on the same ranch with
a very
that.
intense subject, but let's just, Troy's a cowboy, and I'm a Jewish guy from Virginia, lives in Israel. I've never been hunting in my life. I barely fish. I'm not really even a man compared to you. I'm like, can you imagine taking me hunting?
No, I cannot imagine taking you hunting.
But we are buddies because of we're so opposite, and we have fun together. And the thing that unites us is Jesus and our passion for souls. And like you said, we've been to Nepal together and to Israel together. And my wife has been with you guys in Uganda, seeing the orphanages. I want you guys to get to know Troy's ministry if you don't already know it. They go to TroyBrewer.com?
TroyBrewer.com.
And Answer International?
Yes, so you can look us up. So Answer International is another ministry that we do. It's the same thing. It's kind of the secular version for people that don't want to hear me preach about Jesus. That's fine. I'll just demonstrate Jesus to them. I'll demonstrate selfless acts of redemption by redeeming a girl in every way that they possibly can be redeemed.
Well, speaking of that, when we come back, I'm going to continue talking to Troy, and I want to hear some of the testimonies of some of the young ladies that they've rescued, because this is now going on 2 decades. So these young girls are now women. Take a look at this, and we will be right back on Get Real.
Get faith-focused content for every part of life, with hundreds of videos, articles, and more.
Welcome to our Monday's broadcast of the Gospel Truth.
Do you know there's a spiritual atmosphere that affects your very life?
God Daily has you covered no matter what season of life you're in.
More breakthroughs for you are coming. He's not a God that is restrained in power. He is a God of all power and all might.
Sign up today at GODTV.com.
Welcome back, everybody, to Get Real. I'm talking with Pastor Troy Brewer. He and his wife, Leanna, they go all over the world with their team, and they rescue young girls and men from human slavery, human trafficking, sexual slavery. The testimonies are amazing. I've met the proof of their ministry. You have a young girl that you've known since she was just, I don't know how old, but she's married now. She just got married.
Yeah, she's 24 now. And I think she was actually 4 whenever we first met her.
Wow.
But she's 24.
And I
She just
saw
got
her in
married.
Nepal.
Yeah.
And when she saw you, she didn't say, "Hey, Troy." She said, "Daddy."
Yeah, she calls me Dad.
That is
Yeah,
awesome.
she loves me.
Now,
Yeah.
but before we share a little bit more about that,
Yeah.
I just want to just tie this up completely. Let's bring it home to people, because we're GODTV, we're on in Africa, we're on in India, we're on in America, we're on in Europe.
Yes.
And the one thing that we have in common with people all over the world is we have children. How can we protect our children from something like this happening?
Well, there's so many, depending on it. Look, sexual trafficking works different from region to region to region. And I mean, all of our methods all over the world have to be vastly different because it works differently. But one thing that you can do, no matter where you live at, is number one, own the responsibility of saying, I have to be very aware of all the relationships that my kids are involved in.
Right.
Because it's not 1955, Ron. We can't just let them go outside and play all day long anymore without any kind of supervision. And you can't just give them a phone and let them get on the internet anymore. You have to monitor that. You have to steward that, because there are very smart predators who are after your kids.
Right.
Furthermore, I would say to my friends in India, my friends in Uganda, my friends in Nepal, my friends in all those different parts of the world, that there are some common things that happen over and over and over again. Someone will contact somebody like through Facebook or something like that, or some social networking, and they will say, hey, we have an opportunity for you. We have a job for you.
Right.
We have this for you. We have that for you.
Often in another country.
That's exactly right. And if you don't know those people, you cannot believe them, because they will literally put chains on you. I have been in a room in northern India where they brought girls out and people bid on them.
Wow.
I've been in that room, and everybody was holding up phones while people all over the world were bidding on those girls, and those girls thought they were going to get a cleaning job,
Oh my
and they were
goodness.
about to disappear as a house servant, and they were never going to be seen again. And that's what's real is people. There's a lot of people that will live in like some small village or something, and they don't have a very exciting life, and then someone will contact them and promise them something very exciting.
It's hard for us to believe that there are people like that would actually
Oh, they're there.
own another human or sell a
no.
human or knowingly. I mean, like, I can't imagine. There's not a. You could not give me enough money to sell another human being, and yet there are people that. How do they get involved in that?
I can tell you that if you do the research on this, there's more slaves alive right this second on the planet Earth in slavery than have been slaves throughout all of history.
Unbelievable.
So everybody's like, well, slavery ended hundreds of years ago. No, it did not. It's very much real today. And there's a tremendous market for slaves today. Now, there's different cultural reasons, but I'm always going to go back to this. There is a major market for sexual slaves because of pornography. And people don't even challenge pornography anymore. We've lost it in the
Right.
cultures. I was in a church.
It's a joke on sitcoms.
Yeah.
Oh, you look at porn, you get
Yeah. No,
it's normal.
It's no joke. It's no joke. I was in a church a few weeks ago, and I was talking to their praise and worship team. And they have an amazing band, amazing praise and worship team. And I was talking to all the guys, and I was like, guys, how are you doing? They don't even challenge their porno addiction. They call it my porno addiction. That's what they call it. Oh, yeah, I'm working hard on my porno addiction. Meaning they don't even challenge the fact that you shouldn't have
They
a
celebrate
porno.
it.
Yeah, they're just like, yeah, well, everybody's got a porno addiction today. Everybody does not have a porno addiction today, but the numbers are growing, and we do not have to be a part of that. And I'll say it again, Ron, if the body of Jesus does not answer this, and if men of God will not be men of God, there's nobody else coming.
Right.
You know, there's no other major people group in the world that's going to rise to the defense of selfless boys and girls that are being preyed upon by sexual predators if the body of Jesus and if men of God will not be men of God.
Okay, so you're telling parents you got to know who your kids are hanging out with. You've got to know who they're talking to on their phones.
Yep.
If somebody offers them a job to go to another country and you don't know these people, and you don't know
You don't do that.
You run from that. I also want to talk to folks who could end up being a part of this. Now is the time to back away. Now is the time to, because apart from what we talked about earlier about ending up in a Southeastern Asian jail, you're ruining somebody's life.
That's right.
What you think is just a problem you have or a dream you have, something exciting, you're ruining the life of a child. You're ruining their innocence. That, again, for me, I can't fathom how anybody could do it, but it's happening over and over, day after day.
There's a term, a biblical term, that keeps everything in check, everything. And the term is called the fear of the Lord.
Yes.
And without the fear of the Lord, there's no hope. I'm just telling you, there's just not. Because the fear of the Lord is not just, I'm afraid of God. The fear of the Lord says, I respect and I fear the power of God enough to say, what God loves, I'm gonna love, and what God hates, I'm gonna hate. That's what the fear of the Lord is when you love what God loves and when you hate what God hates. Mm-hmm. And brother, we need to hate pornography. We need to hate, we need to have a holy hatred for any kind of slavery whatsoever. And you and I, we need to encourage every single man, listen, you don't have to be a part of that. It's not just a part of being a dude. That's not what that is. There's nothing wrong with you being a guy, but this right here, it's evil, it's sin, and it's not Jesus, and Jesus is gonna judge it, and we have to know that.
Awesome. We started talking about this in our last episode, and I want to close things up about what the male mind or the male flesh, physiologically, what we go through, helping women to understand, men, that we can, one look at a half-naked body, it sends us in. We have to live a life of self-control.
Yes.
And I live in Tel Aviv, Israel, where
everybody's beautiful.
Everybody's beautiful, and they're not always wearing a lot of clothes.
That's right.
And so I don't use that as an excuse to give into my carnal nature, but neither do I pretend that if I don't use self-control, I will do stupid stuff.
Yep.
So I just want people to understand, or at least the other half of the world, that what we go through in terms of that struggle, why it's so easy for men to fall into pornography, not to make an excuse for it, because it's inexcusable. Adultery is inexcusable. Cheating is inexcusable. Rape and manipulation, inexcusable. But for the grace of God, there go I.
Well, that's why we have to have very real relationships. And if you don't have any real relationships, if there's nothing real, here's what's real. You're going to fake it. And I have friends and I have accountability. And I mean, I talk to guys and be like, hey, that's out of line. And girls need to be, if women are in a church relationship or in a work relationship and they have no place to be able to say, excuse me, but that's out of line. You have to have a voice in that.
Right.
You have to actually use your voice and say, that's not going to happen, and that's not what we're here for. And we say that all the time, also just as a ministry team, hey, that's not what we're here for. That's not what we're going to do. Here's what I think all the time. I have a large growing church, and I think every dude in there deserves to have a pastor that does not lust after his wife.
Come on.
And I think that.
All right, so you bring up another topic, which we're running out of time, but you have situations where pastors will prey on pretty girls in their congregation, get them into counseling, and they trust him. They trust him as a man of God. He would never do anything unholy. So if he's asking me to do something sexual with him, he knows that it's okay.
I know, and I'm screaming on the inside.
I know,
right
I can hear you screaming on the inside.
I am just screaming on the inside. Here's what girls need to know about that. You do not get alone with a dude.
Come on.
I don't care how great of a man of God he is. You do not get alone with a dude, period. Point blank. You do not do counseling. You do not do intimate conversations. You don't do that.
So if your pastor's texting you back and forth constantly, if he's saying we need to take this counseling deeper and meet for hours alone, run from that. Find a new church.
That's exactly right.
And tell the elders.
That's exactly right.
We gotta go. We gotta go. Troy, man, I think we've made a lot of progress, and we need to keep talking about these things. And I would encourage my pastor friends, these are uncomfortable conversations, but they need to be had so that we can protect women. And you know what? That's probably not politically correct, but that is our job as men, is to be protectors, not so we can control women, because we love our wives, our daughters, and we want them to be blessed. Thank you for being my guest on
Thank you, Ron.
I forgot the name, Get Real. And friends, make sure you tune in next week. We love you. We bless you. And I will see you very soon. Shalom. Bye-bye.